Day 29. The reading for today is Exodus 33 through 35. I don't know if I'm going to get everything in here because I got a little header right there. Now, chapter 33, and I don't have my glasses. I don't really understand it. Parts of it. The first few verses, like 1 through 3, it basically is talking about genocide. It's like I can see why Christians really like this Bible, because it seems to prefer its believers over anybody else. Now here, it's talking about driving out the Canaanites, Amorites, Hittites, Perizzites, Hivites, and Jebusites. And I will send an angel before you to the land flowing in milk and honey. In other words, God's going to genocide all these other tribes. And I don't think we're really quite sure if this is a tribal thing or a nation thing. I'm going to try and lift this up here. You're going to have to get seasick. And then it says, I want you, when you go in there and you take over their land, I want you to smash up anything related to their culture. Sound familiar? And then it talks something about intimacy with God, which I didn't understand at all. Talking about how you're not allowed to see the face of God or you'll die. And why? Like, why would you die? I mean, just nonsense. Anyways, and then it said, is this one where he says he'll turn his back and you can see his back? What the heck does this all mean? And then it talks something about, another part I don't understand, it talks about the intimacy with you. I have found favor in you, and please come along with us to this new nation. I don't know. It's just, I think it's poetic license to be using a lot of words for whoever wrote this thing. Oh yeah, at the very end it says, nobody can see my face because it's just too much for everybody. So when my glory, what does this even mean? When my glory passes, I will send you in the hollow of the rock and will cover you with my hand until I have passed by. Then I will remove my hand so that you may see my back, but my face is not to be seen. What does that even mean? You know, I think the writer of this just wanted to use a lot of words. I think it's like, my hand is writing, I just can't stop. Then in chapter 34, new commandments are made. He went up into the mountain again, another 40 days, 40 nights. Let's see, and then God's still apparently mad about the last time when, they made an idol, or however you're going to interpret it, whether they made an idol to the God or an idol to another God or made the idol the God. I don't know. It seems like he's still, his widow feelings are still hurt. Then let's see. It says again, it's kind of like this is on a loop a little bit, because then it says it'll drive out the Canaanites and Hittites and Perizzites and Jebusites. Again, a genocide. And then it says, you shall not rape their daughters, because the daughters will want you to worship their God, and they'll force you to worship their God. When has a woman in the Bible ever been able to force anything? Okay, and does that mean the men are too weak to say no? How would these women make them do anything? Right? This sounds like what do you call it? Cultural supremacy thing. That's just what it sounds like to me. Again, it says, you should not make for you any molten gods. Again, the unleavened bread. Oh, this is ad nauseum. He's talking about the feast of the unleavened bread. God has something against yeast. And then after that, it says something about the firstborn males. Now this time it says males. It doesn't say just firstborn. It says firstborn males of every female animal should be, okay, it said it should be given to the Lord. The firstling of an ass you shall redeem with one of the flock. If you do not redeem it, you must break its neck. Cool. God's an animal abuser. The firstborn among your sons you shall redeem. Okay, they keep using this word redeem. What does that mean? Like with the animals, you would think slaughter, but the firstborn among your sons, you're supposed to slaughter them? I don't... People are making so many excuses for this book. The people who believe in God, the Christian people who believe in God. I mean, please explain this stuff to me, because don't tell me they wanted to kill God wanted to kill their firstborn son. But they're using the same verbiage for both the animals and the humans. For 6 days, again, keeping the Sabbath day, feast of the weeks, so many feasts. You shall not offer me the sacrifice of blood sacrifice with leavened bread. Again, you shall not boil a kid in its mother's milk. What does that even mean? This is like the second time. Again, it's like I'm on a loop. It's like I'm reading. It's like a rerun. Let's see. It says when Moses was up making the second set of commandments, he didn't eat or drink anything for 40 days. I doubt that. And then it says something really weird. Okay, when he came down from the mount, his face was glowing. And then, so he put a veil over his, it said he was radiant. And so he put a veil over his face. Now, okay, with all the things I said that sound like a cult, this sounds very, very cultish. This sounds like Moses was going off the deep end. Like Michael Jackson did when Michael Jackson wore a veil. Or, you hear all these pastors wearing these weird things or saying these weird things or just acting very strange. Moses is acting like he's got some type of cult leader complex, or he's just simply going off the deep end, which them two kind of overlap. So then it says, there was a tent on the grounds, and Moses would go into the tent, and when he would go into a tent, a cloud would cover the door of the tent. Is that what, the door, I believe it was? Or the opening of the tent. And, let's see, is this where I saw this? No, I'm not seeing it. He would just constantly be putting this veil over his face because it said that that the people couldn't stand the sight of him, so he would be putting this veil over his face when he wasn't in the tent. That, again, that just sounds like he's got this cult leader complex. Okay, so then now is going along according to how cults run. Moses tells everybody, y'all got to put your own finances and items into property into making this ark and tabernacle and this place of worship. So, yeah, let me take all your money. Another sign of a cult. Let me take all your money and all your property and use it to better our standing, better our ministry. And so then he said to the artisan who is supposed to be making all this, okay, he says, start your work. You're supposed to be doing this. Now remember, this was Bezalel was supposed to be doing all this stuff. And he was supposed to have an assistant. Oh, Holiab. Again, this sounds like a monopoly. This sounds like Moses is bringing him into his cult. And everybody just has to give Moses all their money, most of their property to make this. So, there we are. That was the reading for today. I didn't even write it down in my book. It was just pretty much the same old I'm reading. Like I said, this just sounds like reruns and just wackadoo stuff. Yeah, it was after he came in chapter 34. It was after he came down from the mountain with he wrote in the Ten Commandments. Really want to get into that face covering thing. I thought they said that a cloud would go over the tent, but I'm not seeing it. That might have been the King James Version, or maybe not this one. When Aaron noticed him later on, the Israelites came to him. When he finished speaking, he put a veil over his face. Whenever Moses entered into the presence of the Lord to converse with him, he removed the veil until he came out again. On coming out, he would tell the Israelites all that had been commanded. Then the Israelites would see the skin of Moses' face was radiant, so he would again put the veil over his face until he went to converse with the Lord. So this is kind of, it seems a little bit ambiguous. Because, like, where's he going to converse with the Lord? I don't know. This is really hard to read. And the way they separated the verses in chapters, it makes it even harder. Here's a doll. Here's my doll. It's the magic wand. Her face is one of them doll faces. Yeah, that you make dolls with. Plastic. You know, hollow inside. It's just the front. And the wood is from my yard, you know, dead limbs or limbs I cut off of trees. And that's it. It's on eBay if you want it. Okay, this was day 29, so it's January 29th, 2021. And Biden's still doing his executive orders. I can't, people who are anti-abortion have a biblical heritage of it, even if they, you know, there's some atheists who are struggling with abortion, and the only reason they're struggling with it is because, well, first thing, men can't get pregnant. If men could get pregnant, we wouldn't even be having the discussion of abortion. It would just be legal. It would be legal on demand everywhere, absolutely no requirements. Other than to make sure you're healthy enough to undergo the procedure. It's a procedure, not a surgery anyway, so there wouldn't be any reason. There really would be very few reasons that anybody would qualify. They probably wouldn't even take tests for it. Anyway, so now Biden is, I don't know exactly what it was that he was, if he passed a bill or if an executive order or something, but it was about women's health. And for people who think that this isn't about health and reproductive health, I have prolapse. Having babies causes prolapse. My cause of prolapse, I believe the biggest cause was because of an expulsed IUD. That's expulsed means the IUD started pushing out of the cervix. I think it also might have torn my uterus and bouncing around in my uterus trying to find its way out. It might have, because it was T-shaped, it wasn't the round shaped, it was the T-shaped one. It might have either caused some scarring or may have actually even punctured the uterus, and it's trying to get out because the body naturally, this is why about half of pregnancies end in self-abortion. The body just pushes any foreign objects out of its, the female body, the uterus, tries to push out anything, foreign objects in its, inside it, to protect itself. And so you know, a lot of women have expulsed IUDs. I didn't know this at the time. I was not told this at the time. I was not told to check my IUD to make sure it wasn't being expulsed. And while it's sticking halfway out of my cervix, it did some damage to the cervix. It did some damage to the opposing wall in my vagina. And like I said, it probably did some damage in the uterus while, you know, the uterus was trying to kick it out. So anyways, I think that was why, that was the biggest reason. Plus all the other, you know, constipation, you know, exercise, you know, lifting heavy items. I think all that contributed to, you know, but I think the biggest, to the prolapse, but I think the biggest factor was that expulsed IUD. So anyways, prolapse, most doctors say that there's a little prolapse even after the first vaginal birth, and I have to agree because that's straining. One of the causes of prolapse is straining. But I mean, you got that, the weight of the fetus, you know, weighing down the uterus, you know, because of gravity. This is all because of gravity. We have gravitational pull. So the pull down of the baby, you know, in the uterus, plus it's pushing on your other organs, you know, your bladder, your rectum, plus, and then moreover the pushing. the pushing and the stretching of the cervix, the stretching out of the vagina, to allow the baby through, the birth canal, in other words. Because a lot of people think the vagina is the outside. No, the vagina is the inside. So I'll say the birth canal gets stretched out, and it just increases the risk of prolapse in the long term. Anyways, even if nothing was to happen, which I doubt nothing happens, because of all that straining, that pushing the baby out, the body just naturally pushes, even if the mother doesn't. The body just naturally pushes. It feels like a really bad bowel movement, and the body just starts naturally pushing. And so all that strain and all that stretching definitely has to be causing some prolapse, even with the first child, even at the best of times, at the best situation for birthing. And plus, now you've got doctors who want you just to lay on your back for their ease of aiding and assisting the birth, instead of standing up and letting gravity do a lot of the work. But that pushing still needs to be done to get the baby out of the cervix. So, so even if you did it in a more natural way with standing, you would still have to push the baby out of the body. Would still have to push the baby out of the cervix, which again I would say happens naturally. The body will just naturally start pushing, even if the mother doesn't. So, anyways, yes, that is about reproductive health, because if women have kids, they're putting their body, more and more kids, the more and more risk of prolapse she has. So yes, that's part of reproductive health, is abortion, to make sure, but to make sure that the body's not more prone to prolapse than she is willing to agree to. Now, here's my thoughts on this, and this is the bottom line. It doesn't matter if the uterus is a child. It doesn't matter when life begins. It doesn't matter, because the mother should not, a woman, anyone with a uterus, let's say, because I know some people, the pronouns are problematic for some people. Anyone with a uterus should not have to have that uterus used against their will. Just like we wouldn't make a father donate a kidney to his son, or donate blood so his son could live. A person with a uterus should not be forced to allow that their uterus to be used against their will. Their body should not be used to sustain another body. Whether that's a living, we would never make somebody donate an organ. We would never make somebody donate blood. As a matter of fact, we have a strong stance against that. But then when it comes to a woman having to use her body, or a person with a uterus having to use their body to sustain another life, to bring another life into being, because it doesn't apply to men, well, we must do that. No. And for men who say, well, I'm not ready to parent, then you need to get a vasectomy. If you think, and if you say, I might want a child, well, get a reversible one. Or adopt later in life. Get a permanent vasectomy and adopt later in life. Use condom. Your reproduction rights end at when you ejaculate. Wherever that ejaculation lands, you are going to be responsible for that. It's kind of like the saying that your right, I can't remember how they say it, your right to swing your arms ends at the point where it touches my face? Something like that. Well, your reproductive rights end when your ejaculation enters my body. Okay, so if you need to be responsible for men, you need to be responsible for where your ejaculation lands. If you don't want your ejaculation to be used to fertilize an egg, then you need to make sure that it's not fertilizing an egg. You need to make sure that sperm is inactive. You need to make sure your ejaculation doesn't include sperm. You need to make sure that sperm ends up in a condom. You need to you need to utilize your reproductive rights, and don't put that on a woman. Okay? Even at the best of times, like for anything short of, permanent sterilization, like, what do you call it? Tubal ligation. Removal or cutting of the fallopian tubes. At the best, the success rate of female birth control is in the mid 90%. Okay, so if a woman's on the pill, her depending on what pill it is, it's about 93% accuracy. So unless you're only going to have sex 93 times while you're on that pill, you're definitely going to have a fertilized egg. Now that doesn't mean that you'll even know that you have a fertilized egg, because about half of all fertilized eggs get expelled from the body. They naturally abort, because like I said, the uterus just tries to push that nonsense out, right? It's a foreign object, push it out, right? So, that's a high failure rate. Yeah, that's a high failure rate for something we do so often. It's not like, I like to have sex at least 3 times a week. I'd be pregnant within the first year. And I don't want to be pregnant. And I definitely can't be pregnant now. I would have to get an abortion because I got prolapse. So I got my partner fixed. He got a non-reversible vasectomy. In other words, they took out a huge chunk. So even if the tubes tried, the vas deferens, or however you say that, tried to reconnect, it couldn't because there's such a large chunk taken out. But then they tied it and cauterized it. They cauterized it, and I think they also tied it just to make sure nothing, right? But the doctor told him, you will never be able to have children naturally after this, so make sure you don't want to have any natural children. And yeah, I made sure. He did not want to have any natural children. So, so y'all gotta step up and take your own birth control, and you can't complain if you get somebody pregnant, because you need to take care, you men need to take care of your birth control and then leave our uterus to us. You shouldn't even be in the conversation, men, when it comes to whether or not women should be allowed to have abortions. You should stay out of it. When you get a uterus and when you have the fear of pregnancy affecting your personal body, your body, not your paycheck, your body, then you can talk, but you don't have to deal with the consequences of carrying a child or carrying a fertilized egg and giving birth. Risks include pelvic prolapse, hemorrhoids, perineal, I'm not sure if I'm saying that right, perineal tearing, vaginal tearing, uterine tearing, hemorrhage, Oh gosh, so much more. Heart problems, osteoporosis, varicose veins,